just buzzsawed through the season, ripping up most opponents, if not all of the opponents that they played, putting up gaudy stats, and the Buckeyes were struggling and didn't look good. It wasn't sexy enough. The point totals weren't there, but the victories were. And when push came to shove, the team that had been tested, the team that played a tougher schedule, the team that had faced more adversity, found themselves in the best position to win the title game. Now, Florida State has gone through the entire season winning by 14-plus points or more and scoring a ton of points in the process. Very talented freshman quarterback in Jameis Winston, who's been through some adversity himself this year. But I don't think as a team, Florida has been put in a position to handle adversity. And when you're in the biggest game of the season, when all the spotlight and all the pressure is on, if that's the first time you as a team face adversity on the football field, sometimes that leads to some mistakes. Sometimes that leads to some internal issues on the sidelines. Just a whole host of things. Meanwhile, you take a look at the Auburn Tigers, who have gone through the SEC. Now, they've beaten Alabama. They, in dramatic fashion, they were up against it. Several games they were up against it and found a way to win. And the teams that find a way to win usually do when it matters. So because of that, that has anything to do with the SEC or, the dominant conference or whatever. It's simply I'm taking a look at the path to the title game, and I see Auburn as a team that has been through a lot, who has persevered and have found a way to win. And I look at Florida State, as powerful and statistic-driven as that team is. I've yet to see them be truly tested. Now, maybe they come into this game and they steamroll Auburn, and you can say, well, they were never tested, but they're the national champions. If that happens, then they've earned it, certainly. But I'm going with Auburn as much as my Big Ten loyalties tell me that we can't possibly be giving any credit or rooting for an SEC team to continue that. But until it doesn't happen, it won't. Whatever the case is, that's who I'm going with. So also the big freeze, that's out there. This doesn't really do a whole bunch for the global warming crowd, but it does seem that no matter what the weather pattern is, it always comes back to global warming, whether the temperatures are really high or whether the temperatures are really cool. It all seems to be global warming. It all seems to be man-made climate change, and that the Earth is going to spontaneously blow up in 5 years. And that's what some folks are saying. This new weather system that's sweeping through much of the Midwest and then in the Northeast, they're predicting wind chills of 70 degrees below zero, the coldest in 20 years and life-threatening. I've been through some pretty cold time. I remember in the mid-'90s there was a spell. It was about this time of year where it was 30 degrees below zero. And I can remember a few years after that, and I think it was just actually a few years ago, we had a pretty mild winter where there was very little snow. I remember St. Patrick's Day being it seemed like it was 70 degrees or so, and that's mid-March. The point of all of this is the climate fluctuates, and we have not been able to record a long enough sampling of the Earth's climate change, natural climate changes, to be able to decide if what we're going through now is man-made or not. The evidence that's been produced is junk science. Several years ago it came out that at least I think it was through the UN or whatnot, their science people were doctoring up the evidence, producing false data to show that there is this global warming, man-made climate change. And unless we change our ways, we're going to suffer the consequences. Well, I sit back and I see there's a political agenda behind that. And it's left-wing. It's to promote bigger government, because who's going to protect the climate? Well, of course, government will protect the climate. And all these companies out there that are making a bunch of money, and shame on them, need to be taxed and need to be regulated further because they're damaging our environment. You know, it's just like the smoking thing. Who's going to keep people safe from the evil cigarettes? Well, of course, it's got to be government. You know, when you start to put all of this together, at least I start to scratch my head and say, this is just too much. The government can't possibly regulate, you know, somebody's health, let alone somebody's, climate. Not somebody's climate, but the Earth's climate. So weather patterns, I know they wanted to blame Katrina on global warming. They wanted to blame Sandy on global warming. They're wanting to blame this historic freeze of wind chills of 70 degrees below zero on global warming. You know, at the end of the day, the Earth's climate, what we do know, what is proven scientific fact, is that the Earth's climate fluctuates. Greenland, for example, has gone through several phases of where it's been, inhabitable area. There have been settlements, colonies, civilization, and then they've been wiped out because it freezes, temperatures drop, and now we're recently seeing a spike back up into the country of Greenland, with some colder temperatures now moving in. So it's been this pendulum. Certain parts of the world, that's just one example. It just fluctuates back and forth. And the key takeaway here is the people that are promoting this man-made global warming, Al Gore and the like, are doing it to make some money, and they're doing it to empower government. And for a lot of these people, this is sort of a religion. As scary as that sounds. And it should be scary. You're listening to the Conservative Underground. We'll be right back.
When friends don't stop friends from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking and driving. Friends die from drinking, and friends don't let friends drive drunk.
Kramer, I've been reviewing your work. Quite frankly, it stinks.
Well, I've been having trouble at home, and, I'll work harder, nights, weekends, whatever it takes.
No, I don't think that's going to do it. These reports you handed in, it's almost as if you have no business training at all. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Well, I'm just trying to get ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. There's just no way that we could keep you on.
I don't even really work here.
That's what makes this so difficult.
One of the great shows of all time, Seinfeld, here on the Conservative Underground. We'll be right back.
I'm a paramedic, and it may sound silly, but a lot of people are afraid to call me when they're experiencing chest pain, or to call 911 if they're with someone experiencing chest pain. You know why? Because they think it would be embarrassing if it were a false alarm. Instead, people risk permanent damage or death because they're afraid they might get a lecture. That's ridiculous. So if you have an uncomfortable pressure, fullness, wheezing, or pain in the center of the chest that lasts more than a few minutes, call me. If you have a pain that spreads to the shoulders, neck, or arms, call me. If you have any discomfort in your chest with lightheadedness, fainting, sweating, nausea, or shortness of breath, call me. If you have any of these symptoms or are with someone who does, dial 911 right away. And if it is a false alarm, I'm not going to give you a lecture. I'll be happy to see you. I would much rather treat someone who isn't having a heart attack than to try to save someone who is. To learn more about heart attack warning signs, call the American Heart Association at 1-800-AHA-USA1 or visit us on the web at americanheart.org.
Even a chain smoker can quit smoking. In fact, over 36 million former smokers have unchained themselves and quit for good. This free booklet is full of tips on how many of them did it. Call 1-800-4-CANCER. 1-800-4-CANCER. It just might set you free.
Welcome back to the Conservative Underground. Doc White here. Thanks for listening to the broadcast. One of the other stories that keeps spinning around and around and around is this Melissa Harris Perry, MSNBC host, who was conducting a broadcast within the last couple of weeks, and they put a picture of Mitt Romney up there with his grandkids and Ann, and they poked fun at the picture at the expense of one of the Romney's grandchildren, an adopted baby who is black, and the panelists proceeded to poke fun and to laugh and to mock the appearance of this black baby in the lily white and rich and filthy and disgusting Romney family. Well, it certainly demonstrated the racism that is prevalent in many members of the liberal media, specifically the disgusting crew that they have over at MSNBC, where they have had hosts who have just absolutely said some pretty disgusting things over the last, well, for a long time, but specifically in the last few months, last year, really. There's that one guy who wished that people would defecate in the face of Sarah Palin. Now, this is patriotism, I guess, to some of these folks over on MSNBC. But there really is a large presence, a significant hatred in the pen pusher crowd of the liberal media government complex. And they are obsessed with race and racial issues to the point where they have in turn become racist themselves. And make no mistake about it, what was discussed on MSNBC and what was poked fun at is racism. This is a hatred and a mocking of a family based on simply their appearance and the fact that they would disagree with them politically. And that and the disgusting part of it is they use a baby to prove a political point. Well, this Melissa Harris Perry issued an on-air apology. Mitt Romney has accepted it. She broke down crying. And I don't know if it's staged, if it's real. Who knows with some of these sickos that are capable of saying some of these things. But I just want people out there to see what liberal humor is. And at the end of the day, it comes back to the same point. That if liberals disagree with someone, hate and venom spews from their mouths or their pens or their computers or whatever. It's who they are. You're listening to the Conservative Underground. I'm Doc White. We'll be right back.
What I remember most is the loneliness I felt, the separation from other people. At the end, drinking was no fun for me. Since I've started to attend AA meetings, the greatest gift is that I've become reconnected. I'm part of life again. I really like myself, and that's wonderful. AA is a miracle in my life. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
This is Sheriff Newman, the Justice of Texas.
Texas?
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction. I suggest that you let my department handle the situation.
That's their company.